would you lead us in prayer before we begin our meeting?
Heavenly Father, we just thank you that you're a good God. We thank you for your mercy, your grace. We ask you to be with us tonight, Father, as we discuss things that are important to our students, and that's graduation. Father, we're asking that you bless graduation. We're asking, starting today, that you bless our graduation with beautiful weather. Bless this meeting. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray now. Amen.
I'd like to call the Ketchup County School Board of Trustees meeting for May 6th to 4th. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed agenda?
So moved. Second.
Then move properly second and discussion.
I have a discussion, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, please, I might as well ask this question. Nobody needs to get upset with me about asking the question. I know Matt's been here for a while, and Kim's been here longer. But why is it that we don't have executive session several times on our meeting agenda? We don't have to use executive session necessarily to go in and adjourn and come back out. But if somebody has something that they want to ask, either with personnel or contracts or employees or leaves or whatever, we just leave it off. And if you put it on, it seems to me that you can use it or not when you go in. That's bothered me since I've been on here almost 8 years now. So this is the first time this has happened. So does anybody, we have an explanation for that, what I'm asking?
Yeah, I have one. You have to specify when you advertise your meeting what your executive session is about. So if it's about personnel, it's employment matters, it's about contracts, and there's a set list of guidelines that the open door law requires you to post if you're having an executive session. Now, I have left it off, and we just use it once a month when we have employment matters, or we've put it on, for example, when we were talking about our safety program, because safety is one of the things you can discuss in executive session. So if a board member speaks with the chair and there's something that's permissible to discuss in the executive session, you want it on the agenda, I'll place it on the agenda. If I don't hear any, I don't just place an executive session on the agenda if we don't have a specified topic to discuss.
Appreciate your answer, not to be argumentative, but if something were to happen today at 4 o'clock that I wanted to discuss personnel, or anybody else wanted to discuss personnel, we couldn't do it, especially if it was something that was pretty serious or an allegation or whatever that we wanted to discuss. It seems to me that it would be reasonable just to include the executive session, whether you use it or not. This is the first time that we've not used executive session. I don't know what Kim feels about it, or it may have anybody else, but and I don't think anybody else will agree with me, but it seems to me that that's a part of our meetings as we come here, whether we can use it or not. And that you got to have 24-hour notice. And it does, you do discuss personnel matters and other matters that might come up. If you don't want to discuss out here, deal with personnel matters. But that's the way I understand the reading of the policy. So, if y'all want to change it, then we probably should have discussed changing it. But I don't know, we just change things and it just stays changed. I don't know. I don't understand when I'm.
Well, so I'm going to
personally, and I ask straightforward questions.
Yeah, I'm going to respond, and I'll give you a straightforward response. And my opinion, because I'm the one that creates the board agenda with the chair.
Well, that's with the chair.
And nothing's been changed, just because we don't have an executive session on the agenda. I've been here almost 2 years now. And so for the last several months, if we're not discussing personnel and there's nothing that's been identified to discuss in executive session, we haven't had one on the agenda. If you put one on the agenda, then you have to use that executive session regardless. And if we don't have a specified topic, it opens up the door for you to violate the open door law to go behind closed doors and discuss something that wasn't advertised. So we put executive session on there, we have to identify what it's about.
Personnel is always open door. But anyway, that's my opinion. I expressed it. That was discussion, so I don't think anybody else.
And Coach, if something came up at 4 o'clock and you wanted to share it with the board, we could amend that. We just couldn't take any action to go into executive. So we could actually have an executive session, but we could not take any. We don't take action in the executive session. We just could come back out and take action.
Well, I would have to say.
You can inform everyone in the board, and I was hoping that we was clear that anyone that's on this board, if there was something that you wanted to discuss or discuss in the executive session, you could let the chair know, whoever he or she is, and then that would be discussed. So going forward, you know, if anyone around the board wants to discuss anything in the executive session, if you pick up the phone and give them a call, then when Dr. Robinson and I are, you know, looking over the things to be discussed, then we would include that in the agenda, on the agenda.
So are you saying like when we say adopt the proposed agenda, if someone said, you would need to get an executive session, we can amend that?
We can discuss, but we just can't, we can go back and discuss something just happened at 4 o'clock. So you feel that the board members need to know what has happened. So then we can amend that, we will have an executive session, the board is just informed. Once the board is informed, the only thing that we would do is come back out and not take any action because it's not listed as an action item. So it doesn't take us out of the FOIA recollection of laws.
Well, this will be my last statement on it anyway. Executive session, like you just said, you go in executive session, you list personnel matters or whatever executive matters, executive session matters, which everybody knows what they include. And you say, and if you don't have anything, you come out and you don't take any action. But it's not listed, so we can't take any. I have a question tonight, but I'm not going to ask for the public probably because I don't think it's good to ask. But I received the email. I'd like to have an answer to it. And either I got to call somebody all the time and try to get an answer, and I don't like doing that. But there was an email that was emailed to the board, and I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I certainly would like to have an answer to. I don't think it's personnel matters, and I think it would be executive matters personally. But when I got my agenda, I got a call and we got to redo the agenda to add executive session so we can ask questions. That's my last part. That's my last comment on it. Okay. So I just can see the problem with having an executive session. I think I need to clear the air on that because it's bothered me. It's going to stay this way. It's going to stay this way.
Well, you know, we're clearing the air, so I think I'm going to respond. And as the superintendent of the school district, I would have great concern if we show up to a board meeting and you have a personnel concern and I haven't received a phone call.
Well, I believe in a lot of cases, we brought it up, the email came from you. Text came from you, email came from you. Okay? You wouldn't want to go in that direction? Okay, thank you.
Well, you know, it goes back to, the board's responsible for your agenda. And that's the reason why executive session's not been on there, Coach.
Okay.
And again, the way you posed that statement, I would hope if there's a personnel concern, we wouldn't wait until the night of the board meeting to decide we want to go into executive session to discuss personnel. When you have an HR department, you have a superintendent that's responsible for personnel. If it's something that could be accomplished or it was an emergency, you always have the authority for an emergency meeting if it's that drastic. But, again, you guys just need to work with the chair. We'll create the agenda the way you want to create it.
Well, it was comment section for agenda time, so I made my comment.
Thank you, folks. Any other discussion? The motion has, any other discussion? Motion has been made and properly seconded to adopt the proposed agenda. All those in favor, let me know by raising your hand. Those opposed?
I was saying,
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, the meeting minutes for April the 21st, 2020 board meetings?
So moved.
Proper motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. is done. Okay, no old business, new business. Under Chairman's report, I think you all may have received from South Carolina School Board Association, the president, Scott Price. The South Carolina Department of Education established an advanced ed task force. He's part of that task force, as well as the past president, as well as the Saluda County School Board Chair, Catherine Coleman. And it sent out an email to all the board members throughout the state, which says, to help them be able to share information as a part of that task committee from the South Carolina Department of Education. We wanted to get the input from all of the board of trustees throughout the state. And so they're asking that we take the time to fill out that monkey survey and send it back in no later than Thursday. So I want to bring that to our attention in the event that someone may have overlooked the email because I know we are very busy. And that's my report. The only other thing I think Dr. Roberts going to cover and discuss about the great appreciation of teachers. I think he's going to share something after those.
So I know I've got 2 teachers on the board. One's a teacher, always a teacher, coach, Miss Hallie. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I sent Miss Hallie a text today, and I won't say the other part, Miss Hallie, but I told her I knew that it was 2 years ago to the day that I interviewed for this position, because I remember sitting in front of you guys and wishing her and Coach a happy Teacher Appreciation Week. So anyhow, we have had some challenges in this environment for our teachers. I think if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you don't understand the work that some of our staff is putting in. Saying thank you seems like so little to thank our teachers during this period of time. I think they're really selling us well in terms of what we're able to accomplish in our school district and trying to mitigate the loss of instructional time. I've had the chance to go to a couple of parking lot faculty meetings, and it's been neat, even though they've had to keep their social distance, just for them to see one another. But last week we had one at Watery Elementary School, and Kim, I saw you drive through, and it was really an amazing event. And what was really amazing about it was after the faculty meeting, Dr. King had invited the parents to do a reverse parade through the car rider line. And so I can't even tell you how many cars came through that line. Little kids with their signs, how much they miss their teachers with signs. And it was just really a fun day. And so they have created a little video, and I thought in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, before I get into my report, that I would share it. So.
miss you and hope to see you soon.
So what I would tell you is we've had multiple events now, and we're going to have several more in the future, but that kind of stuff is going on all across the district, and I just think that says an awful lot about our school district and our community, and hopefully you've noticed that we've been in the news quite a bit, and it's been for a good reason. It's things that we're doing in Kershaw County, so I thought it was important to show that to you. So my update is really primarily focused on COVID-19 and where we are. I'm going to give you some basic information, and then I'm going to talk pretty detailed about graduation. So status at the end of last Friday, 1 May, obviously you all know now that the schools are closed for the remainder of the academic school year 2019-20. We continue with food distribution, and we've served over 250,000 meals to this point. In some capacity, we are going to continue with food service through at least a large portion of the summer. There is going to be reimbursement from the state. We can still receive USDA reimbursement. One of the discussions yesterday in my superintendent's conference call was because of the pandemic, there's going to be more and more children that are going to be in need of food support through the course of the summer. And so we've been encouraged to go ahead and continue to provide that. I'm just in the early discussions on what that means in terms of staffing, both from a food service standpoint and from a transportation at this stage of the game, we can't mandate that they work, so it's gonna take people that are willing to work. However, because we don't work out of every location, we can pool our resources and put people on shift work. I've talked to Dr. Goodwin about how he's accomplishing it. One of the things we've thought about is 3 days, and then on that third day, we deliver enough meals to get them to the next week, and then we can rotate shifts that way and still manage our work balance. So that's good. All the face-to-face summer camps and programs have been canceled. More to follow as this thing continues to evolve. There's continued discussion on what school may or may not look like this fall. It's not a given that we're going to come back to start the 2020-21 school year completely normal. So it's still very open-ended in those discussions. We have, hopefully you didn't go into the other building. We started our requirements of taking temperatures, sanitizing hands, and wearing masks at the district office, all of our food service locations, as just our standard operating procedure. If anybody is over 100.4 degrees, then we ask them to go home.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
How are we taking those in?
We've got a gun, a non-contact gun we're using.
And I know doctors, so I'm just asking, but how reliable has that been? We hadn't sent anybody home because from I've heard, and you hear so many things, when you're taking it with a gun, that it's possible somebody's been in the car or something. If this registering temperature, they could be, are we giving them time to sit to a side?
Yeah,
If they're saying they had no fever and we're letting them adjust to room temperature again or something?
Yes, sir. I think we've only sent maybe 2 people home the whole time we've been doing this. Of course, Dr. Copley is sitting here. He'll attest that now the research is saying that people could have the virus and be symptom free as well. It's just one more precaution that we're taking. So all the number of times we've done this, we've only sent 2 people home. Kershaw County, if you're tracking what they're putting out in Kershaw County, still about 2 to 4 presumptively positives a day. We've had a couple days where it's been 0, but it's still ranging anywhere from 2 to 4. So I'm going to go slow on this. I want you to ask questions if you have concerns with the plan. But, I put out a plan early for graduation, and then the state released a memo that had guidance on it. And it really forced a lot of us then to change our planning. And so I got a phone call from the state, and I had discussions on why I'm sticking right to their guidance. So they issued a new memo that gives us more flexibility, allowing us to go back to our plan. And the plan was, the big thing, the precursor was every graduate was going to get 4 tickets. I had to minimize that to 2, but now we're, as of tonight, nobody else knows. This is the first time I'm putting it out there because I don't like to seem wishy-washy. But as of tonight, the plan is every graduating senior will have 4 tickets. Again, persons that are ill or immunocompromised, we're suggesting they stay home. Graduates at CHS and LEHS will be given 1 parking hang tag because we're going to set up for overflow an outdoor video screen where people can drive in, pull in, park like a drive-in theater, and they can watch graduation and then they can hear graduation. After meeting with Davey today at North Central High School, because the home bleachers are taken down, we think it would be much better and have them closer to be able to park out at the home side and see the new Jumbotron that's going in as we speak, versus putting them over at the middle school in a parking capacity. So we decided to go against the drive-in concept at North Central High School because the home bleachers are down. They'll have a good line of sight.
Robbins, on that, with the drive-in option, because those 2 are in the morning, with the sun, what's going to be the visibility on that screen?
So these are designed for outdoor during the daytime screen. It's LEDs, like sometimes you'll see concerts and stuff with screens.
So we're hiring out that.
We're hiring, yes, sir. Yeah, we're hiring that out, and we're also hiring out this year the web streaming as well. Julie Putnam's worked with providers, so we don't have to worry about drop signals. They've got the equipment to do this, and we just want to make sure it was right.
So if you're in the parking lot, will you be able to hear pretty clearly from the PA system, or will we pump sound out in the parking
We'll
lot?
pump sound. We'll pump sound. So these screens have speaker systems with them. So it'll pump the sound out, and it will have the web stream of the video or of the graduation on the screen.
And one last question.
Yeah.
Because it's in May, which is, I think we want people to sit inside cars.
Yeah.
We'll be able to pick a radio station to maybe dial into.
We'll let them get out of their cars.
Okay.
And we're going to space the parking so we can maintain, social distancing. And we walk the parking lots to be able to do that. So, yeah. And you're going to see graphics as I go through this on what the design is looking like at this point. The graduates will all have commemorative face masks. Jostens is making those for us. So it'll be a face mask with the school logo on it, just trying to make it something that they can, as a keepsake. Right now, I've discussed this with the principals, because their chairs are going to be spaced 6 feet by 6 feet on the field. If they want to take their mask off while they're sitting in their seats waiting to be called up to go across the stage, they can take them off. That allows parents to zoom in and take some photos of them. But once their row is called up to cross the stage, then they'll put their masks on. Something else too, we won't hand them their diplomas and shake hands. They'll be on a table and they'll go through and they'll pick their diplomas up. The seating for attendees, I actually have played with this a little bit. It was going to be 6 feet. Now that they gave me some flexibility, we'll do family clusters of 4, and then we'll do 10 feet, and then another family cluster of 4, and then we'll stagger that through the stadiums. That will give us plenty of social distancing. We'll use ushers to get families to their seats and back, so we don't have just the accordion effect as people come into the stadiums. When they're lining up to enter the stadium, we'll have it marked where they're 6 feet apart. We'll have nurses using the non-contact thermometers that will go down the line, and they'll take the temperature of our guests before they come in. They have to have a mask. If they don't have a mask, we have ordered plenty of masks for everybody. They'll be on the table. They'll put the mask on. We'll also have somebody sitting at the table with a mask and surgical gloves, and they'll be spraying their hands with the sanitizing solution versus each guest coming and grabbing the bottle and sanitizing their own hands. That way we have control of the sanitizing solution. Again, if somebody has a temperature of greater than 100.4, we're not going to let them into the stadium. The graduations are early enough in the morning and North Central's is in the evening. It shouldn't be from standing outside, but if they're close enough, then we'll take them to a cool area and see if their temperature drops, and we'll recheck it. We have our SROs that are going to be working with our law enforcement officials and our teachers to assist with the ushering and the social distancing. And that's pretty much going to be our SOP for the day. Now, I will show you here later on what it's going to look like in terms of the actual high school footprints. We will live stream this. We have contracting with a company to produce the live stream, so we know it'll be a powerful enough signal and we'll drop the signal. The drive-in theater approach, like I said, will be at Camden High School and Belgium High School. And after the ceremony, we will usher people out, because if we let them sit and congregate, then we'll defeat this whole social distancing piece. What I've encouraged the principals to do is to create a schedule when seniors could come in with their families and they could do photo ops in blocks of time, and that would minimize the amount of people on campus. So before graduation, we'll leave the stage up. They can do it after graduation and give them plenty of time to capture photos.
Yes, for the live stream and later on download it to the district website.
Yeah.
What if a student wanted a copy of it?
That will be an option. They're going to save the company we're using. Will have save copies, and we can get copies of it. That's a good question. That's pretty much the summary of the day, okay, in terms of SOP. Now, if you look, here are our dates. North Central High School is going to be on May 29th at 7:30 p.m. We're looking forward to a Friday night graduation. And with that new Jumbotron, we think it's going to be a lot of fun. The rain date for them is the very next day at 7:30. Camden High School will be May 30th on Saturday at 8:30 a.m. And their rain date will be on June 2nd in the evening. So versus waiting till the following weekend, if you got families in town, we're going to do it on that following Monday and Tuesday in the evening, so it doesn't interrupt people's work schedule. My slide got a little botched here, but Lugoff Belgian High School is on May 30th at 9:45, and their rain date is June 1st at 7:30, which is that month. Okay. So the next slide here, and I'll send these to you so they're blown up and you can see them a little bit better. On the left, we've walked each one of these stadiums to give approximate distance and to maximize the number of seating that we can get in there. So that gives you an idea of the layout. The gold arrows are where our guests will come into the stadium. We'll have tables, we'll have nurses, we'll have SROs, and we'll work people in the stadium that way. On the visitor side in the back, you see the black arrow. That is where our teachers and any of the staff that are working the event and our students will come into the stadium for graduation. If you look at the lower right, again, I'll send this to you so you can see it a little better. In the black, those are our parking areas. And again, I've encouraged our principals to look at the alphabet, the number of students, and break it up and assign parking areas to families just to make it easier so we don't have a really long line in one entrance and next to no one in another entrance. Go ahead.
When is this communication going out about parking places, which side will we see it on, and how they're to enter with all our mandated checks?
The first thing we'll do is we've already kind of shared the checks. We'll push this out after tonight. I wanted you guys to see it first. And then the principals will communicate with their seniors and their families on specific details on where you're going to park and those types of things based on their state. If you look in the gold area, that is behind the Zim Stadium, the new iron fence area. That's where we're going to do the drive-in parking and the actual video screen with the projection, and we'll line cars up in that area. That's full Camden. And we rent that field, so we'll have SROs and law enforcement out there with cones to set that up and have it lined up, which I think will be pretty good.
So every graduation will have to go to
And I've talked with the sheriff already. Of course, we'll use all of our SROs, and then he's going to supply us with as many deputies as he can. And Deputy Bowling has talked to the Camden Police Department. So for the Camden graduation, we'll do the same.
So with the parking, each graduate has one parking pass.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then to be allowed to get out of the car, are we distancing by the parking?
Yeah, we'll distance the parking. So what I did is I used 20 feet, so 10 feet per car, and then 10 feet behind just to spread them out that way. That gives them plenty of space. We'll have law enforcement out there to make sure they're maintaining their social distance if they get out of the cars.
We have a designated place for the graduates to park.
Yes. Yeah, you can't see it on this screen, but if you look to the right, that's the designated spot for our staff and our students. And they'll come in up here. That's actually up here in this black arrow up there on there. So each area's got a designation for students and staff. I won't move too fast if you guys have other questions. Okay, Lugoff Belgian High School was much more of a chat box. Look at the football field. And I actually had to place guests down on the football field. I couldn't squeeze them in the stadium. I couldn't get, because if we give 4 tickets per graduate, they have 343 graduates versus 100 at North Central and 240 at Camden, so I just needed more space. The only way I could do this was to put about 160 chairs down on the field and put them in the field. And then you can see their parking area. Their drive-in parking is actually going to be behind Lugoff Elgin Middle School. And so people that are driving in to park there will come off of Wildwood Lane. They'll come off of Wildwood Lane and we'll have them parked in there, and that's where their street will be. But it gives us enough separation from the rest of the crowd where we can do that. And then you can see in the red, that's the student and staff parking, which is actually back behind the school. But the way they're going to march their students in, they'll come through the school and through the gate. So that's the way we chose to do that. Now, the one thing I didn't touch on is I've got VIP seating at every one of these locations. Mary Ann has sent out letters for me to the Bethune Town Council, the Camden City Council, the Elgin Town Council, the legislative delegation, and the county council, inviting them to their specified graduations. Now, the county council and the delegation, they can come to all three if they choose. But we need hard RSVPs, and I've got them sectioned off in an area where they'll sit, as well as the board members that are coming to graduations. The only question, I guess, would be maybe for Dr. Copley, if he wanted to sit with the board or if you wanted to sit with your family when you come to Camden. It's totally up to you, I understand. Yes, sir. Okay. But there is a spot if you want to sit with VIPs in the board. So with that being said, that gives you pretty much a good idea. Now, if you scroll on down to then North Central High School, again on the home side, and I couldn't really draw the graphic the way I wanted to, but there's a natural kind of amphitheater look to that because it banks up, and we're going to pull cars in at a semicircle, and they will be able to look at the scoreboard, watch graduation, and have a good line of sight because there's no bleachers there right now, so there'll be nobody in their way, and we can fit cars in there. Davey is putting his teachers and staff back behind the building, and then they'll walk in through the gate and march around the track and into their seats. It'll be a little different than what they do. They usually put the stage out front, the students behind. We're doing it the other way so that the students can actually see the screen, and we're not going to be concerned about the sunset and the sunrise possibly being in their face. And we were able to squeeze all of the guests for North Central High School into that those bleachers and maintain our social distancing. The biggest difference with North Central and even Lugoff Elgin High School, those concrete bleachers are much deeper, and so you've got more space versus at Camden High School, the aluminum bleachers are closer together, so we had to go every other row. And like I said, we opted not to use the drive-in theater type approach because you already got it. You can pull up right there. Now, if those home bleachers were there, we might not have been able to do that, or quite honestly, we could have fit everybody into the stadium. So that, in a nutshell, is the plan. So I'm open to questions, critiques, ideas. We've spent every day trying to think about how to best do this for our students. Be respectful to them, respectful to the families, and get as many people involved in this as we possibly can. So I think this is a pretty good plan. I really do.
Well, two, I'm sure we all getting faced with the time when we were saying that just two, and I knew that we would just follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
So with this changing to 4, they're not going to take it back. They're going to keep it at 4.
Yeah, they won't take it back now. Yeah, they really shouldn't have been guiding us on numbers. Yeah, everybody's stadium is a little different, right? And so the capacity and the ability to social distance is based on your stadium. So to give us a hard number really is not appropriate. But they took it back and they adjusted. And I appreciate that to give us flexibility to be able to do what I consider to be the right thing. And, I took it as hard as anybody, on the criticism. And what a lot of people don't realize is I have a son graduating. And I have adult parents that live with me, and I had to tell them, you can't come to graduation. So, you know, I didn't want us to be cast in a negative light if we didn't follow their guidance. And so now we're able to open it back up a little bit.
Rob, logistically, what do you see as the biggest competitor? Rival, departure? I mean, the biggest thing with there's potential hiccup.
Both. The arrival, you know, because people are going to get there and, you know, we don't have assigned seating. And here's the thing, it's like a big church. You're going to get ushered in, and we have to start at the top and work our way to the middle and then work our way down. We can't just let you come in and sit. The one thing I failed to mention was we'll have the sections marked off with tape. So we'll have 4 X's, and then we'll have red tape that's the blank spot, and we'll have 4 X's and blank spots. So
What about
stagger.
elderly and disabled or whatever? If they arrive early, which
Disabled will have their own seating section. Camden is really nice because their bleachers are designed with handicap seating. Blue Gulf Elgin High School and North Central High School will have, they'll be sitting on the track. We'll have a section on the track for them.
the elderly, same thing.
Same thing, if they have a difficult time getting up into the stadium. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I was going to ask the same thing about handicap.
Yeah.
And elderly people. Overall, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the number of people that should be in there has to be the size of your stadium, the size of your graduating class. And to make a one-size-fits-all thing, the stadium just really didn't make any sense to begin with. But from what I see here, it looks like you guys have put a lot of thought in this. And it looks like from what we see right now, like a really good plan.
Thank you. You know, we could have probably went with more at North Central than 4, but they only have 1 set of bleachers right now, so that really kind of eliminated that option. And so then it was easy to just stay 4 consistent across the district. Believe it or not, 4 was kind of hard to get into Camden High School because of the narrow width of those bleachers. So they may have just as many rows, but I had to skip rows to keep the distance. So, but back to your original question, getting people in and getting people out, not having that accordion effect and people bunching up at the gates. But we've got 4 gates. We've got nurses. I had a nurse in Camden who works at Richland too that said, "Hey, I know you're using nurses. I'm happy to help." So I've got people that are volunteering. You know, the quicker we can gun them and spray their hands and then usher them in, the better off we're going to be.
What time are things going to start in terms of lining people up and starting? Because I mean, I can see people getting there at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
We haven't really, we're going to meet tomorrow after our district admin meeting, and we're going to start talking more specific details. We are resourcing this, and we're working. I know I've got 2 working groups right now. I've got the working group with the whole technology piece, which is Mary Ann, Julie, Isty, and Carrie, and myself. And then we've got the working group with the principals, Billy Smith, and Doug Bowling to have the logistical piece in place. So we still have some more discussion to know, when we'll open it up to allow people in. But you're right, we have to have a specified time on when that's going to be staffed. We will have X's or blocks taped outside of the stadiums, so you know where to stand. I know you guys have been into the grocery stores and stuff. You've seen that. We need to follow suit and do the same thing. So,
Rob, the one thing I would add as a suggestion is that just because of what's going on, your tensions are going to be high.
yeah,
Right? It's frustrating for everybody, and so then you cram a bunch of people and tensions are high. So my recommendation would be prior to and after, lots of background music, video loops,
Yeah.
anything that you could do, parking lot, jumbotrons that you have, just distract you.
Yeah.
Because if you come in and you're on edge and you're sitting in the parking lot with a big screen that's showing videos, whatever, it kind of just brings the tension down.
Sure.
So I think that'd be a good suggestion, and music inside the stadiums.
yeah, I agree. Yes, sir.
In the past, there's been very strict, we're locking the gates if you're not here at this time, and no flexibility. How are we working that with this, since we're having to usher people in, there can be hiccups, are we gonna have flexibility on when it starts,
Yeah.
those unusual
We
circumstances?
have to.
Okay.
Yeah, we absolutely have to. This is not going, and I know our principals like to be dressed right dress, and I appreciate that.
That's fine.
But in this environment, yeah, there's no way. We don't know how long it may take us to usher people in. And, you know, if we have a family that does have an elderly person, you got to move a little slower. That's why we're trying to use all 4 entry points and really tell you where you're parking to get you in those gates quicker. You know, I think exiting is going to be slower than entering. But again, we've got to make sure we're going to get our graduates out first to try to minimize any need to congregate and want to be, you know, in the state.
And lastly, just because it's probably gonna take longer this year, plenty of restroom space.
We've got about as much I mean, we can't create more restroom space, but yeah, we've got, and what we're doing is we're setting up a table outside. You know, you wash your hands and use restroom, but you'll also have somebody manning the table, and you'll have to sanitize your hands again in the restroom. So we'll have tables outside each restroom.
So you're gonna have people ushering people to their seats. We have enough ushers.
Our teachers are going to do that because one of the things, unfortunately, I had to tell our principals was unless you've got them gainfully employed at LE in Camden, we don't need them there because it'll just take up too much space. And so if they're ushering and doing stuff like that, that's the way to be there. North Central for 2 reasons. One, it's smaller. The staff is smaller. And based on what they've gone through this semester, we're going to allow every one of them to be there unless they're ill or they have a condition where they really probably shouldn't be around people. I know we have a pregnant teacher that Davey's encouraged her not to come. So
North Central is, at the graduation, they said their tradition of going to the end zone and circling up. How's that gonna be handled?
same way.
They're just gonna come together as a group? There's no
Yeah,
problem.
they'll have their masks on.
There won't be any problem about social distancing.
They'll have a little more distance. One of the things Davey talked about was the group picture before the ceremony. They'll take it. They're going to have a walkthrough practice Thursday evening before the graduation on Friday, and but they'll still do just like they normally have done. They'll still be able to do that. That's right. So pending anybody's questions, that's pretty much what I had. I do have Mr. Hopkins here tonight. I did want him to give you an update. We do have a couple administrative positions that we're working on. This is not the best environment to try to fill positions, but he's been working on redoing CLC in general and the way we're doing things. I wanted him to just talk to you for a few minutes.
And I promise I'll be very, very brief. With the CLC position, we reclassified that position and posted as district director of alternative learning instead of just a CLC director, because the program has reach across all of our schools, high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. And so we have programs right now that are home-based learning, programs involving career education, programs involving WTC. So this program will have further reach. We had approximately 40 people express an interest in the position. We went through that 40, and we're still in the process of narrowing it down to a reasonable number of folks to really give close scrutiny and close consideration to. And we hope to be able to come back to you next meeting with a recommendation for filling that position. So in a nutshell, that's what we have right there. The last thing that I want to say to you is, how about some good news for a change? How about some money? I am pleased to announce that Fairfield Electric Cooperative has been kind and generous enough to donate $5,000 to North Central High School for their library restoration program and to replace the books that were destroyed from the tornado back in January. I serve on that board as one of the trustees, and we have 3 other residents of Kershaw County: Mitch Raven, Kenny Miles, and Cynthia Williams from this community on that board. And all of us were very, very thrilled that we were able to get the cooperative to contribute that money to North Central High School restoration program. And in doing that, North Central High School is not in our service territory, but we are a community member and we're all family, and we want to make sure that we contribute to rebuilding our family just like everyone else.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Dr. Robbins, yesterday on the virus, COVID-19, fall sports. They do weightlifting, they do training during the summer. And so I know they got a special committee, meeting, but what's the outlook for fall sports and their training during the spring?
Well, I can tell you the training right now is, it's not taking place. All of our campuses are closed. We just can't do it because of the social distancing requirement. That's starting to open up a little bit, but again, based on the trending of the virus, and so those discussions right now they're starting to discuss what do we think fall sports may look like. And there is a reality that fall sports are either going to be later in the year or may not happen at all. So it's still very open in terms of the discussion and the conversation. There is no timeline on when we think we can bring kids back to campus and start working out in our weight rooms and doing things like that. And I'm on calls with the state superintendent and all the other superintendents twice a week, and that's a discussion point every time, and we have no guidance yet.
And it stinks.
And it does.
That's what it stinks.
It does, but it's just our reality we're in right now. So we don't even have the flexibility to be able to be creative and try to do something. We can't. Anything else for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn and close the program? Second. Proper motion is second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for wisdom. We thank you for allowing these individuals within our district to come up with a plan to best pull off a graduation for our seniors. And once again, we just ask that you show your favor on these days in that line. Amen.
Okay, I'm going to email